Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining CCIF Round 3 on Developing Grant Narratives and Scoring webinar presented by First Children's Finance. Disclaimer: the information that you receive today does not constitute as advice. If you need advice, for example, financial or legal advice, seek support from a qualified profession in the field. Also, the materials we share with you are exclusively for your childcare business. Please do not share them. If you know someone who would benefit from our resources, send them our way. We are ready and waiting to help. Our contact information will be provided at the end of this webinar. Before we dive into the details of the Child Care Infrastructure Fund Round 3 webinar today, I want to take a moment to introduce who we are at First Children's Finance. First Children's Finance, or FCF, is a nonprofit community development financial institution, or CDFI, that has been around for more than 34 years. We are the only national organization focused exclusively on strengthening the sustainability and growth of childcare businesses. Our mission is simple but powerful. We help children, families, and communities thrive by increasing the availability, affordability, and quality of early child care and education. We do that by providing business education, technical assistance, and access to capital for childcare programs, including family childcare homes, centers, and community-based providers. Through our partnership, like this one with the Oregon Department of Early Learning and Care and Business Oregon, we connect these vital small businesses with the financial tools and resources they need to sustain and expand high-quality childcare for families across Oregon. To learn more about who we are and what we do, you can always visit our website by scanning the QR code on this screen. Now let's take a moment to introduce the incredible team that's supporting Oregon's CCIF program through First Children's Finance. Our work here is led by Dr. Jumisha Wade, who serves as the director of our Oregon division. Dr. Wade brings a deep understanding of Oregon's early learning landscape and a strong commitment to advancing equitable access to high-quality childcare. Supporting her is our dedicated Oregon team, which is composed of 4 business development specialists, including 2 who are bilingual in Spanish, 2 business development managers of whom are also bilingual in Spanish, and our program specialist who helps coordinate our training, technical assistance, and reporting. Together, we are here to support you through the entire CCIF grant process for round 3, from preparing and submitting your application to managing your project once funding has been awarded to those who are recipients. No matter what stage you're in, whether you're exploring the opportunity or already implementing a funded project, our team is here to walk alongside you every step of the way. Now let's take a moment to walk through and talk about the Child Care Infrastructure Fund, or CCIF, and why it matters for Oregon. The Child Care Infrastructure Fund was established through House Bill 3005 during the 2023 legislative session with a powerful purpose: to strengthen Oregon's child care infrastructure. The grant program was designed to support the development, expansion, and improvement of child care facilities across the state. That includes helping programs open new locations, expand existing ones, or make the kinds of renovations needed to better serve families. The Child Care Infrastructure Fund is administered by Business Oregon, which means the grant itself while the Department of Early Learning and Care oversees the statewide business technical assistance that supports both applicants and grantees. To make that happen, the Department of Early Learning and Care partnered with Northwest Native Chamber and First Children's Finance, where together we provide training, technical assistance, and one-on-one consulting that helps applicants build strong, fundable projects and manage their grant successfully once awarded. As a reminder, Round 3 applications are due at 4:59 p.m. on December 16th, 2025. You could submit your applications by visiting Business Oregon's webpage, scanning the QR code here, and as a reminder, all applications must be submitted through the portal. No paper applications will be accepted. Now, we'll move on to our webinar, Crafting Strong Grant Narratives and Aligning the Rubric and Scoring Criteria with those narratives. As we've shared, we're going to focus on two really important pieces of your Child Care Infrastructure Fund application, writing a strong grant narrative and understanding how your application will be scored. Let's start with the first topic, the grant narrative. Since the Child Care Infrastructure Fund is a competitive grant, your application needs to stand out among many strong proposals. The narrative is your chance to tell your story, to explain the why behind your project, show the need in your community, and describe the difference between projects and what will make and how this will benefit children and families. A strong narrative doesn't just help secure funding, it also becomes a roadmap for your project once you are awarded. It helps you track your goals and measure your progress and communicate the impact of your investment over time. The second part of our session today will focus on the scoring rubric, and this is the tool reviewers use to evaluate applications. We'll break down how points are awarded, what reviewers are looking for, and how you can align your project with CCIF's priorities to maximize your score. And hopefully by the end of this webinar today, you'll have a clear understanding of how to craft a compelling, competitive grant narrative and how to ensure your application meets the evaluation criteria for the best possible chance for success. Now let's get started with the grant narrative. When you're completing your CCIF application, one of the most important sections you'll write is the grant narrative. So what exactly is a grant narrative? A grant narrative is where you present a compelling case that helps reviewers understand why your project is worth investing in. It is your opportunity to clearly show the need, the impact, and readiness of your project, and to demonstrate that you have a solid plan and capacity to manage funds responsibly. Now, let's walk through the key components of a strong grant narrative. The project description. This section answers the question, what is the project and what are you trying to achieve? For example, maybe you're applying for funding to acquire a new property so that you can increase childcare slots in your community. Keep it clear, direct, and outcome focused. Then we'll have your needs assessment. Here is where you explain why this project is necessary. What community need or gap are you addressing? Use data to strengthen your case. For instance, share how many children are on your wait list or how far families may have to travel to find available care. If you can, try and connect your project to Oregon's broader child care access challenges, especially in rural areas or infant-toddler child care deserts. Next, we have project goals and objectives. Here, you'll want to know and identify what outcomes you're aiming for and how you're going to measure success. You want to use a SMART framework: specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound in this area of your narrative. For example, one way to identify this is saying, increase license capacity by 20% within 12 months of project completion. Reviewers are looking for goals that are both inspiring and practical. Activities and timeline. Next, you'll want to outline how you'll bring your project to life. List the key steps and include estimated completion dates, from planning and permitting to construction, licensing, and opening. This timeline becomes your roadmap once you've been awarded, and if you've been awarded, helping you track progress and stay accountable. And finally, describe how you'll track your progress and measure success. What does success look like for your program and your community? Common indicators of this may include an increase in license capacity, higher enrollment rates, positive family feedback, or meeting safety and quality improvement standards. Building a plan for ongoing evaluation and reporting shows reviewers that your project impact will last beyond the funding period. So step one in your grant narrative is the project description. This is where you'll set the stage and provide a clear, concise overview of your project. Think of it as your elevator pitch for your proposal. What's the project? Where is it happening? And what are you planning to achieve? When writing this section, there are a few key things that you will want to really keep in mind. Provide a brief overview of your project. Include the location, the scope of work, and the specific upgrades or improvements that you plan to make. You'll also want to focus on clarity. Avoid technical terms or jargon. Reviewers come from a range of backgrounds, so simple, straightforward language is always the best. And most importantly, highlight why this project matters, not just to your program, but to the families and communities that you serve. For example, you could say something like, my program will renovate an unused classroom to expand its infant care capacity by 6 slots, addressing a local shortage of infant care options in rural Marion County. Short, clear, and focus on impact. That's exactly what reviewers are looking for. Step 2 is the needs assessment, and this is one of the most important parts of your narrative. This is where you make the case for why your project is needed and how it addresses a critical gap in childcare services. Start by clearly identifying the problem your project will solve. So you'll want to ask yourself, is there a shortage of childcare options in your area? Do you have a long wait list? Is your facility outdated or in need of critical safety improvements? Then you'll want to back up your story with data. You'll want to use local sources whenever possible, such as enrollment trends, community surveys, or CCIF waitlist data. Numbers help reviewers see the need clearly and objectively. Some guiding questions to address in this section could be, what is the current state of childcare services in your area? What unmet need does your project fill? And how will this investment improve access to quality for families? If you can connect your project to Oregon's statewide childcare goals, like increasing infant toddler slots, improving safety, or expanding care in rural areas, you'll strengthen your case even further. And step 3 is really all about setting clear, measurable goals. Because strong goals show both your vision and your readiness to deliver results. If you receive funding, your goals will serve as a benchmark to track progress and measure success. Then you'll also help identify challenges early so you can reach out for support when needed. Your goals should clearly state what you're trying to achieve and what you want to achieve, whether that is increasing childcare capacity, improving safety or accessibility, or enhancing your learning environment. A good way to strengthen your goals is to break them into smaller milestones. For example, project design, then construction, licensing, and enrollment. Remember, all goals should follow a SMART framework that is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. So here's a strong example. Increase enrollment by 20% within 6 months of project completion. This is specific, measurable, realistic, and has a clear timeline. Reviewers appreciate goals like this because they demonstrate planning, accountability, and focus. Step 4, focus on your project timeline and key activities. Essentially, your roadmap for how the project will move from idea to reality. Funders want to see a clear, realistic plan that shows you've thought through what will happen, when it will happen, and who will be responsible. Start by listing your major activities, things like facility design, permitting, construction or renovation, purchasing materials, hiring staff, and completing training. Then you'll want to break those activities into a timeline with specific phases, deliverables, and targets for completion. This helps reviewers really visualize the flow of your project, and it also keeps you on track once and if you're awarded a grant. For example, your timeline may look like month 1 and 2, facility design permitting, month 3 through 6, renovation and construction, month 7, staff hiring and training, and month 8, licensing, enrollment, and opening. A couple of key tips. Make sure your timeline aligns with your project goals. If your goal is to expand capacity by, say, summer of 2026, your activities should clearly lead to that outcome. Identify any discrepancies. For instance, construction can't start until design is finalized. Showing these relationships communicates strong project management and readiness. When reviewers see a timeline like this, it demonstrates that you are organized, realistic, and prepared to use the CCIF funds responsibly. Step 5 is all about evaluation and impact. This is where you explain how you'll know your project is working. Funders don't want to just know what you plan to do. They want to know how you'll measure success once it's complete. This means combining quantitative data like capacity, enrollment, or financial stability with qualitative insights such as parent satisfaction, staff morale, or community response. To strengthen your evaluation plan, consider these guiding questions. What are the short-term outcomes you expect right after completion? For example, an increase in available slots or an improved classroom quality. And what are the long-term outcomes like higher retention rates, sustained enrollment, or stronger community partnerships? And then how will you track and report progress? Will it be through quarterly updates, surveys, or progress reports? Here is a key example for evaluation and measuring impact. Success will be measured by adding 10 new infant toddler slots, maintaining 95% enrollment within 6 months, and achieving 90% satisfaction by parents based on an annual survey. Having this kind of clear, measurable indicator will help tell your story beyond completion. This shows reviewers that your project is impact-driven and really sustainable. And remember, your evaluation plan isn't just for the grant application. It's a tool for you, help your team celebrate wins and identify challenges and continuously improve. Receiving grants funds is huge, and it's a huge responsibility. And this part of your narrative really helps funders feel confident that your organization is ready to carry out your project successfully. This section, sometimes referred to as your organizational readiness or capacity statement, is where you show that you have the planning, people, and financial foundation to make your project happen. So let's walk through these key elements. Planning and capacity. Start by demonstrating that you have a clear plan and an internal capacity to handle the project. This means showing that you've thought through the logistics, timelines, permitting, vendor management, and any discrepancies. If you completed similar projects in the past or worked with local partners, include that experience. It gives reviewers confidence in your ability to follow through. Next, you'll want to look at staffing and leadership. This highlights the expertise of your leadership team and staff. Funders want to see who's leading the work and why they're the right people to do it. Mention key staff like directors, project managers, or business partners, and connect their experience to your project's success. And finally, show that you can manage grant funds responsibly and that your business has long-term financial health. Provide assurance that you have systems in place like bookkeeping or grant tracking or fiscal oversight to manage grant funds effectively. If you're collaborating with partners or matching funds are part of your project, include letters of financial commitment in your application. These demonstrate both financial backing and community support. Now, there are several supportive documents that you can include to reinforce your readiness. And these documents could be a business plan, parent or policy handbook, Spark rating certificate, director resume, Oregon Registry online step level, employee recruitment and retention plan, training certificates. There is a long list of documents that could support and build a strong application. Each of these will help paint a full picture of your program's stability and quality, and together they'll demonstrate that your organization is ready to manage public investment responsibly. Given that the Child Care Infrastructure Fund grant is competitive, one of the most important things you can do is to help reviewers clearly see what makes your project unique and why it matters to your community. Your goal here is to make your project stand out by showing how it directly benefits children and families and the broader community around you. So let's talk about how you can do this effectively. One is through community impact. How will your project improve access to care, create new opportunities for families, or support Oregon's childcare goals? Next, you want to highlight your commitment to inclusion and equity. If your program supports bilingual learning, serves children with disabilities, or reflects the cultural and linguistic diversity of your community, you'll want to say so. These details really show that your project is not just about expanding care, but about expanding equitable care. Third is partnerships and collaboration. Strong partnerships can evaluate your proposal. If you're working with local schools, employers, or housing authorities, or nonprofits, you'll want to mention them. Describe how these collaborations increase your reach or improve the service delivery. Even better, consider attaching letters of support or partnership agreements to your application. These kind of letters can validate your project's credibility and show how it aligns with the community. And then staffing ratios and workforce readiness. Funders really want to see that your programs can sustain quality as it grows, and staffing is really key to that. In your narrative, explain how your project will maintain or improve staff to child ratios, how you will ensure qualified, consistent staffing, and then outline your recruitment and retention strategy. For example, competitive wages or benefits, staff training and professional development, partnerships with local community colleges or workforce boards. This gives reviewers confidence that your expanded or renovated facility will have the people needed to run it effectively. So together, these really show that your project doesn't just meet the need, but it strengthens Oregon's entire childcare ecosystem. So now that we've covered the key elements of a strong grant narrative, let's talk about how to make your writing stand out. And here are the 4 best practices that can help make your narrative more compelling and memorable. One, you'll really want to show the human side. When you're writing your narrative, remember that funders want to understand the real world impact of your project. Don't just describe what you're building, but show how it will really help. Share some short examples or data that illustrate the families and children and community members that this will benefit. When you connect the numbers to people, your story becomes that much more powerful. Then you want to ensure that you're very clear and concise. So keep the language straightforward and easy to read. Avoid technical terms and any unnecessary jargon. Your reviewers might not come from a background with some of the terms that you may use. So the goal here is to make your messaging clear, so that anyone really gets a clear picture of the amazing vision that you are creating. Address address and highlight the long-term impact. So don't just describe what will happen once your project is done, but explain how the impact will last. Will it create jobs or support economic growth in the community? When funders can see the long-term ripple effect, they're more likely to invest. And then be transparent about your challenges. Every project faces hurdles, and that's okay. Strong applications don't hide challenges, they acknowledge them and really explain how you plan to overcome them. This shows reviewers that you're realistic, proactive, and prepared to handle any complexity. So now that we've looked at how to make your grant narrative strong, let's talk about what not to do. Even the best projects can lose points if the application is unclear or incomplete. And here are some common pitfalls to avoid. You want to avoid vague descriptions. One of the most common issues is when vague or general language is with vague or general language. So make sure to be specific as possible in every section of your application. Number 2 is lacking a lack of measurable outcomes. Funders want to see clear, realistic goals that can be tracked over time. A goal like increase enrollment could be too broad. So you want to try something like maybe increase enrollment by 20% within 1 year of project completion. This helps to see your project structure and the accountability. The third is overlooking evaluation. Another common pitfall. Funders need to understand and know how you'll measure your success once your project is underway. If you don't describe how you'll track progress, whether it's through milestones, reporting, or internal review, reviewers may assume your organization isn't prepared to manage these public dollars. Make sure you've outlined your project timeline, objectives, and evaluation criteria. This not only builds the trust with the funders, but also gives you a roadmap for your project success. And then we have a weak or missing roadmap. So make sure you clearly show who's responsible for what, when, and how. Missing or unclear milestones can make even a great project seem risky. So as you prepare your application, remember, strong, detailed, and measurable narratives not only tell your story, but they help reviewers trust that you're ready to deliver the results. Now that you know how to craft a compelling narrative, your next step for this presentation is to draft your project narrative and focus on the areas that we've just covered. You'll want to use the CCIF applicant guide. You can scan the QR code on the screen, and it will help you get started with narrative templates and resources, and then take some time to review and refine your draft, making sure your narrative is clear, concise, and in line with the CCIF guidelines. And just so you know, this presentation is being recorded and will soon be available on First Children's Finance website and on our partner websites. So you can go back and replace sections and reference examples as you work on your own application. And in just a moment, we're going to shift gears and talk about how your application will be evaluated, specifically how the CCIF scoring rubric works and what reviewers look for when assigning points. Now we'll review the key items from the CCIF scoring rubric designed by Business Oregon. Since CCIF is a competitive grant, it's important to remember that your goal is to aim for the highest score possible to increase your chances of potentially becoming awarded funds. However, remember that a high score does not guarantee that you will be awarded. The good news is that applications are not judged selectively. They are evaluated using predefined scoring criteria, which are publicly available on Business Oregon's CCIF webpage. The purpose of the scoring rubric is to promote fairness, transparency, and consistency in how funding decisions are made. Every applicant, regardless of size or location, is reviewed using the same criteria. So, what exactly happens after you submit your application? Here's a quick overview of the process. Step 1 is the initial screening. This is where your application is reviewed for eligibility and completeness. Make sure all required documents are submitted and that your project meets the basic requirements. As a reminder, all applications must be submitted through the portal. There will be no paper applications accepted for this grant. 2, review and score the review and scoring phase. Each application is evaluated by trained reviewers who score it based on the established rubric. Their training ensures that scoring remains consistent across all applicants. Step 3, panel review. This step helps ensure fairness and alignment with the CCIF goals. So the panel reviews the scores and looks for consistency across applications to make sure that every project is considered equitable. And finally, step 4 is the funding decisions, and these are made based on the scores, the rubric alignment, and the available funding. So now let's take a closer look at what happens during the panel review and what that means for you as an applicant. The panel review is the next major step in the scoring process, and it's where your application really gets a deeper look. The panel is made up of subject matter experts, individuals with backgrounds in early learning, business development, and community planning, who are responsible for conducting an in-depth review of the top scoring applications. Their goal is to ensure each project truly aligns with CCIF's priorities. And here's what the project looks like in practice. The panel begins by reviewing the scores from the previous phase, but they don't just stop there. They also look at qualitative factors that numbers alone may not capture. If the panel identifies discrepancies or context that warrants adjustment, they may refine or adjust the scores. Ultimately, the panel's review and recommendations determine which applicant advance in the final funding decision phase. This step ensures that scoring remains fair, consistent, and aligned with CCIF's mission. Now, let's take a look at how applications are actually scored. Each CCIF application is evaluated across 4 key categories with a total of 44 points possible. The higher your score, the more competitive your application will be overall in the review process. The largest scoring category is program type and priority populations, which accounts for 21 points. That means nearly half of your total score is tied to how well your project aligns with CCIF's core purpose, which is expanding access to childcare for high need and underserved communities. The other categories are readiness to proceed, which is worth 9 points, which measures how prepared you are to start your project once funds are awarded. Community alignment, which is worth 6 points, which evaluates how well your project responds to your community needs. And sustainability, worth 8 points, which looks at your plan for maintaining long-term success after the grant funds are spent. A successful application will demonstrate strength in all 4 areas, showing that your project is not only needed and well aligned, but also realistic, well planned, and built for sustainability. In the next few slides, we'll break down each of these categories in detail and walk through what reviewers are specifically looking for. The first and most heavily weighted category is in the scoring rubric is the program types and priority populations, worth a total of 21 points. This section carries almost half of the total possible points, so it plays a huge role in determining how competitive your application will be. This category really does evaluate how well your project serves high need communities and how much it will increase childcare capacity in your area. So projects in what we call childcare desert areas with fewer or no licensed childcare options could receive more points. These are identified using statewide data, and points are awarded based on quartiles of need. That means projects in the top quartile or areas with the highest level of need will and can receive the most points. Those in areas with less shortages still receive consideration, but fewer points may be awarded. In addition to location-based priority, reviewers also look at who your program serves. So projects that serve priority populations can earn additional points. This includes programs that provide infant and toddler care, accepts ERDC, employment-related daycare subsidy payments, or offers early childhood special education services, have culturally specific focus, or operate as a bilingual or a language immersion program. So to really maximize the score in this category, make sure that your narrative clearly demonstrates how your program fills a gap in the community and really meets the needs of priority populations. You want to use supporting data like waitlist numbers, census data, or local demand studies to make your case as strong as possible. Reviewers are looking for clear evidence, not just statements of intent. Since this category carries the highest points in the rubric, a strong data-informed response here can make a major difference in your overall score and competitiveness. The next scoring category is readiness to proceed, worth 9 points. This section evaluates whether your project can begin immediately after funding is awarded. In other words, whether you have everything in place to hit the ground running once funds are released. Because CCIF funds must be spent within a specific time frame, projects that are already well organized and ready to launch are scored higher. Reviewers want to see that your project is not still in the early planning stage, but ready for implementation. Points in this category are awarded based on 2 factors. Readiness, so do you have the necessary approvals, permits, and secured funding to begin? Timeline strength, so is your project timeline clear? Is it detailed and realistic? So to make your application stand out, include supporting documentation that shows you're ready to proceed. This can include zoning or site approvals, permits or permit applications, contractor bids or cost estimates, letters of financial commitment or partnership support. Also, you want to be sure to include realistic work plans, outlining key activities, deadlines, and milestones that really demonstrate how you'll complete the project within the required time frame. The more evidence that you can show that your project is truly ready to start, the stronger your score will be in this category. The next scoring category is community alignment, which is worth 6 points. This section evaluates how well your project meets the specific needs of your community and whether it demonstrates meaningful alignment with local priorities. So, projects that are directly addressing high priority populations, specific geographic regions, or health and safety needs tend to receive or could receive a higher score. So, to maximize the score here, you'll want to try and focus on showing evidence of real community demand. You can show this by including waitlist numbers, demographic or census data, parent and community surveys. Reviewers want to see that your project isn't just a good idea, but that it is responding to a clearly demonstrated local need. You'll also want to be sure to explain how your project will positively impact families. And when reviewers see that your project was designed with the community's real need in mind, that and that you have the data to really back this up, um, you'll score, you'll potentially be able to score higher in this community alignment area. And the final scoring category is sustainability, which is worth a total of 8 points. So this category measures whether your childcare business or program will remain financially and operationally stable beyond the grant period. So funders really do want to be confident that the project that they're investing in with you will continue to provide long-term benefits for children, families, and the broader community. So a key element here is what's called a continued use period, and this means that your facility must remain open and operating as a child care program for a set number of years after receiving the grant. So this ensures that public funds create lasting impact, not just a short-term fix. Points in this category are based on 2 main factors. Financial stability, so does your project have a solid financial plan? And then operational sustainability. Have you planned for things like staffing, enrollment, long-term maintenance to keep your program running smoothly? To strengthen this section of the application, you want to include documents like a business plan, financial projections, budget, parent and staff handbooks, marketing and recruitment strategies, and that is strategies not just marketing for children, but also marketing for staff. And then how you're going to retain staff, so a recruitment and retention plan. All of these documents really show reviewers that you thought beyond the grant period. So before you hit submit on your application, here are a few best practices that can make a real difference in how your proposal is received. First, you are going to want to be clear and detailed. Provide a complete and realistic plan, budget, and timeline. Reviewers do need to see exactly how your project will be carried out from start to finish. The more specific and transparent you are, the easier it is for reviewers to understand your vision and trust your ability to deliver. Second, you're going to want to address community needs. Show how your project directly responds to childcare gaps in your area. So you want to use data, waitlist numbers, parent surveys, letters of support to really strengthen your case. Third, you'll want to focus on sustainability. Include a clear path for sustainability and stability, and program continuity beyond the grant period. Funders do want to know that your program won't just be open, but it will last. And finally, most importantly, make sure that you're following the guidelines. Make sure your application is complete, accurate, and aligned with Business Oregon's program guidelines for the Child Care Infrastructure Fund, aligned with the RFGA, and the scoring rubric. Use the rubric as a checklist to assure that you are maximizing and can maximize your points. Before we wrap up, I do want to take a moment to tell you about the incredible trainings that we offer through First Children's Finance. First Children's Finance is the national expert in childcare business model innovation, and here in Oregon, we provide free trainings designed to strengthen your business and financial foundation. Our sessions cover practical high-impact topics like budget and cash flow, developing a marketing plan, business policies and procedures, quality staffing and retention, all trainings that could really enhance your CCIF application. Each training includes hands-on tools and resources that you can use when you are applying for the Child Care Infrastructure Fund grant. To register for any of our trainings, you can simply scan the QR code on your screen, or you can visit our website at firstchildrensfinance.org. We also have more CCIF webinars coming your way, so make sure to check our website and check the Department of Early Learning and Care's website for more information on how you can register for our CCIF Round 3 webinars. Before we close, please don't forget you're not alone in this process. If you have any questions or need support with your CCIF grant application, please reach out to us. Our contact information is listed here on this slide, and our team is here to support and help you. Whether you're still drafting out your narrative, reviewing your budget, or prepping to submit your application, you can always connect with us, so please don't hesitate. We're here to make you feel confident and supported every step of the way. We want to thank you for joining us in this webinar today, and we look forward to seeing you soon.